Welcome to Illustrated Beards, brought to you by the Fantasy Shop, best in comics games since 1981. I am Jason. My co-host for the evening is John Cunningham. He's going to be sitting in, and we're going to be talking about some comics. We have decided to discuss Batman, Joker's Daughter, #1, Forever Evil, part of the ongoing Forever Evil series. This is number 5 of 7. And beautiful Infinity hardcover, and it is like really, really thick. So we'll talk about that here in a little bit. So as we always do, we'll start with you, John, and Forever Evil #5.
Awesome, great. Forever Evil #5. I really enjoy this series. I know sometimes people get the event fatigue, but I thought this has been a great one. It's a continuation of a battle from the last book.
Sure.
It's Slade Wilson, Deathstroke's forces against Luthor and I guess this is the new Justice League.
You can call them the Injustice League.
The Injustice League. That's what we're calling them right now. And you see that battle. It's Blockbuster, Shadow Thief, Giganta against all of Luthor's guys. You got Bizarro, Captain Cold. And when we get to the end of that battle, you see Slade Wilson, who, true to his mercenary style, flips forces and now joins onto Luthor's team.
Well, it's actually funny because Luthor just outright offers him money.
Yeah.
Like, I'll pay you more money than you can ever have, and you just come fight for me.
And then you can't stand the prospect of, when Luthor talked to him that if the crime syndicate takes over this world, is there really a place for you?
Right.
Slade's like, I'm in with you.
Right.
The story is the crime syndicate coming and taking over, but what you really see now is with Luthor in charge, even the good guys are the bad guys.
Right.
And you see, Batman's there and Catwoman's there with him, and Batman's trying to assert his authority, and Catwoman's like, hey man, you ain't in charge no more.
I think that's one of the coolest things about the story is Luthor just realizes that if these people succeed, if the crime syndicate succeed and they take over the world, well, Luthor's not going to be the most powerful guy in the world anymore.
No.
And he likes that seat
He
has. Yeah, so.
And he probably doesn't like the prospect that someone defeated the Justice League and Superman along with him, and it wasn't him.
No one kills Superman but me!
The fact that Batman's alive in the story, I don't know, and Luthor kind of alludes to it in the beginning of the book, that they actually believe that the Justice League is dead.
Right.
So I think he has, it in the back of his mind, I'm going to be able to show people that I'm the conquering hero, even if Superman does come back.
Right. A human being can do what Superman did. Yeah. They did that big battle with Power Ring and Sinestro.
Which doesn't work out too well for Power Ring in the end.
Well, I mean, I think from his perspective, it works out just fine. The interesting thing about Power Ring is the lantern ring from the other Earth, it corrupts its host.
Right.
I mean, it's constantly berating him about being a better lantern and using more of its power and stuff. Sinestro wins the battle, and Power Ring's pretty much left for dead. But it's a very bittersweet moment for him. He just says the ring, it's finally gone. Which was, he's smiling, like he's happy that it's all over. As opposed to, you look at Hal Jordan from, the regular universe. Well, this Hal Jordan from the other universe, like he's a sniveling little whiny, fear-filled thing.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be Power Ring.
Right.
He's afraid of all the other members of the crime syndicate. You're right, it was, when he's finally defeated, it's like a release. And it sure seems like that curse is going to be visited upon somebody else. But
yeah, the ring flies off.
We don't know who that someone else will be.
We get to the end of this book, and we won't actually talk about what happens, but they've been alluding to something in the background within the crime syndicate's ranks pretty much the entire story.
Right.
We kind of finally see some of that come to fruition at the end of this story, and it's a big cliffhanger moment. They definitely keep you wanting to come back for more.
For sure. When you read the end of this comic, you're going to be really interested in what happens in issue 6.
Sure. Yeah, so Forever Evil #5. Tracking down 1 through 4 is not impossible. We've done it for a couple of people, and they are readily available through our distributor. So if you really want to check out the series, come in and pick them up, because it's really been fun so far, and I'm interested to see where it will go. I've chosen for my review Batman, Joker's Daughter one-shot. Interestingly enough, this is not the first time we've seen this character. She popped up during the Villain Month story. And I think in the pages of Catwoman, if I'm remembering that right. But she's just a crazy young. She's portrayed as like a 16-year-old. I think is what we're supposed to understand. Her age is. She found the Joker's face, like it washed down some sewer into the Gotham underground, and she happened to come across it, and she realizes what it is. and just decides she's going to put it on and be a crazy person. And she kind of takes over the Gotham Underground. And this story shows us that moment again where she gets the face. And that was actually one of the creepiest moments in the story. She kind of starts chewing on it like it's jerky or something. I don't really know what the point of that was. I guess just to show this chick's kind of a psycho.
The depths of her man. I mean, right. I open up the comic and that's the
first thing you see. Yeah.
And
what is happening?
I was taken aback a little bit by that.
It is an interesting tale. She's clearly setting herself up. She wants to get the Joker's attention and bring him back from the shadows or wherever he's hiding. So she first tries to go to the Batman. She creates this elaborate thing where the Batman has to find her, and they end up at the precipice where the Joker fell. It almost looks like it's being poisoned. The area around the cliff.
The landscape.
Yeah,
I think even Batman alludes to.
Yeah, he makes a comment about it.
Yeah, it's been poisoned by the Joker's corpse.
But yeah, so I'm not really sure. Again, I'm not really sure what her ultimate goal will be, or even if the Joker would approve. What we've understood about her, and even in some of the other stories she's been in, she's not a killer.
No.
I mean, she's maimed people, she's hurt people, but she's never outright killed somebody, and she does for the first time in this book. Because an Arkham guard makes a comment about all the stuff that happened, and how the Joker would just kill her, like that she knows nothing, that she's not a killer. And of course, then she proceeds to kill him to prove the point. Her whole thing at Arkham was really interesting. She runs afoul of
the original inmate of Arkham Asylum.
Yeah, the first inmate of the asylum. She's got some weird power to kind of like look into your mind. I think what we're supposed to understand out of that is that this girl's mind is just too chaotic. Because there's a bunch of different stories about what happened to her, and that's kind of similar to the Joker in a way. Like, we're not really ever sure who this person was before he was the Joker. I mean, we know the Red Hood story, but even before that, we don't know what drove this man to who he is.
It reminds me of the Joker in the movie.
Right, where he kept changing
his origins.
Sure. The doll maker makes a brief reappearance in the story, and if you don't remember the doll maker, he's the one who cut off the Joker's face in the first place. Right. But she goes to him and she has him kind of permanently attach the face to her own face. Interestingly enough, I mean, if the Joker does come back, how's he gonna have a face again?
Yeah.
This thing has gone through so many different people.
Maybe that's the fight.
Right, so many different people, and I mean, even in the story, in the Batman Death of the Family story, it was like rotting off of him by the end of that story, and that story was only supposed to take place over a couple of weeks. So I don't even know how it's still as intact as it is. It definitely makes her visage creepy. She's got something going on underneath there. She scarred her own face at some point in her past.
We saw her cut herself or something.
Yeah, like she had this great childhood, at least of the pieces we think we know. Right. She had this great childhood that she was just not okay with. And she thought to herself, cutting and these kinds of scarring made her more beautiful. So in any case, it winds to the end of the story, and she passes out and she awakes to a note tied to her cat on purple paper. Hello, beautiful is what it says, and she of course thinks this is a message to her from the Joker. Now, she herself says the same line, hello, beautiful, to Batman earlier when she runs into him. Take what you will from it. Could it be the Joker reaching out to her? Maybe. Could it be she's just a crazy person and she fabricates this whole thing and doesn't remember it? Probably. This is definitely an interesting little one-shot that they did, just kind of give you a little backstory for her before they do a little more with her in the Catwoman book and have her start to affect the Bat world.
I think they're trying to make her a major character.
Yeah, at least to hold us over until they bring the Joker back.
Right.
So yeah, Batman Joker's Daughter _1 from DC Comics. It's sitting on the shelf now, so check it out. And the trade, hardcover, we have selected is Infinity, the Infinity hardcover, which is everything. I mean, that is something that right away caught my eye. I mean, it's a $75 hardcover, but it's Infinity 1 through 6, New Avengers 7 through 12, and Avengers 14 through 23. And it's also got some digital-only chapters in here that had the Silver Surfer in them. So if you're a Surfer fan, you get to see something that was never in print form before right here in this book. We talked about the first issue of Infinity on the show. I definitely think, looking back on that episode, I was right. I mean, in a way, like, it was better than most of the Marvel events we've seen. Most Marvel events, they start off really strong, and then you really are into it, and then the ending just kind of leads into the next big thing. Age of Ultron is a perfect example. Avengers vs. X-Men is another one that they're building so many stories off of something that they're doing, and they kind of leave you hanging at the end of something that's supposed to be this big blockbuster event.
And not that this doesn't build into the next thing. It does into Inhumanity, but it does wrap up in and of itself. Yeah. And I thought it did a really good job of keeping the continuity of all that was going on in Marvel at this particular time as well. You could read this and be completely satisfied.
Yeah, and not go forward or read Inhumanity or any of that stuff. The reason I liked it is because it brought back some characters that we just hadn't seen in a long time. Like the Inhumans were characters that, while they're their own individuals, are in certain stories, we never saw them brought back together as a whole. This story starts with, the ruler of them, Black Bolt, calling them all back to the Citadel. Like, something has happened, and they all must report to him.
One of your favorite names, right? Blackagar, Boltagon.
Yeah. It's a cosmic story. There's so many facets, and one of the great things, I think, we talked about this when we first reviewed number 1, was Jonathan Hickman was in charge of every part of this story. So they all just bleed into each other so well. I mean, he does this thing within comics where it's almost like they have chapters.
Right.
We'll have an entire page that's just dedicated to a title. Like a title page that's letting you know where we're going now. So he's changing perspectives throughout the individual issues, kind of similar to the way the Game of Thrones books are written.
It reads like a novel.
That helps to have him allow you to see multiple different points throughout the universe and still have a unifying thing that they're all moving towards. Right, but it was a fantastic story from beginning to end. I mean, they went into space. We had the Shi'ar. We had the remnants of the Skrull Empire.
Right.
I mean, there's like, 5 Skrulls? This hardcover, while it's kind of pricey, I think it's worthwhile just because you don't have to open up 15, 16 issues of a comic book that you have bagged and boarded and filed away with everything else just to reread it. But yeah, I mean, it definitely winds toward a conclusion that I think a lot of us didn't see coming. Especially the way they stopped Thanos. They kind of imprisoned him in a stasis cube. I don't really know how to describe that thing. It's just a big orange cube, and
living death.
Yeah, living death is what they call it. And they've introduced us to a new character in Thane, Thanos' son, which was very interesting. He was a healer that was living in a hidden city. So part of him was Thanos' species, which Thanos comes from Titan.
Titan,
yeah. And then he had Inhuman blood because at one point during the story, the Citadel of the Inhumans is destroyed.
Right.
And if you don't know how the Inhumans work, when they come of age, they're exposed to what they call the Terrigen Wave, which ignites their hidden abilities, which ignites their powers. And because the Citadel exploded, the Terrigen Wave was just thrown across the planet Earth.
The entire planet, so all Inhumans.
Anybody that had any ounce of Inhuman blood in them, immediately started manifesting powers, and Thane was one of those. One of Thanos' generals. This guy's he's a whisperer. He's not powerful, and he can't beat Captain America or Thor or any of these guys, but he's good at influencing people.
Very good.
And so as Thane leaves the planet to go off into the universe, I guess assuming to find his own way.
Right.
This person is with him, kind of whispering in his ear.
What does it say?
And under the discipleship of the Ebony Maw, Thane, son of Thanos, would grow to become something worse than his father could ever dreamed, a fitting match for what we learned was a dying universe. So, I mean, while they have taken Thanos out of the world for a time, I think we've got a new Thanos in Thane.
That's what it looks like.
It'll be interesting to see when they bring him back into the world, where he'll go and what he'll do. But, man, this is just a really beautiful hardcover. I mean, even when you take off the little slip jacket, it's got a nice printed picture of Captain America and his team. One of the engineers, Gladiator, and some of these characters that became kind of his soldiers during this story. And that was actually one of the most interesting things about it is when they went onto the universe, I mean, we realized that Captain America is not just a leader of men. He can be a leader of anyone. Like, he just has that inspiration and that command of leadership that all will follow him.
Especially with what they've done recently with Marvel now, you don't get to see the leadership aspect of Captain America. He's relinquished control in the Uncanny Avengers, but this is where you got to see him at his best. It's not throwing the shield; it was the plan. One of the most stunning moments in the entire story was the Thor moment where he shows
where Captain America surrenders.
Yeah, absolutely. The galactic council, all these leaders of their world, and they are following the lead of Captain America, the Earthman.
It's funny you bring up the Thor moment, because that was one of the greatest things when he said, you know, he's sending someone to negotiate the ceasefire, and he sends Thor. We're thinking to ourselves, like, could you have chose a worse negotiator?
Right.
Like, this is the God of Thunder. He is the worst negotiator you could ever think of, and they even make him relinquish his hammer. But he like literally launches it at the sun of this world, and it just kind of slingshots around the sun and comes right back and literally goes, like, puts a hole in this guy that he's trying to negotiate with.
Absolutely.
And that was Captain America's like moment when he turned the tides. I mean, that was where it started. That was where the Engineers started to lose this fight. So yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic story, and while all that's going on, you've got the Thanos stuff going on Earth. It all culminates in a big battle, obviously, between the Avengers and some of the aliens and Thanos on Earth.
Right.
And then even in the epilogue, I mean, they didn't really win, because the new Avengers has told us of a story. Multiple Earths are dying.
Right.
Like
the end of everything.
The end of everything is coming, and they have tried to find they're trying to find a way to stop this.
And they defeated Thanos. But
Yeah.
now there's a worse thing.
But now there's somebody who's poised to be far worse. I mean, just to wrap it up, it's a beautiful hardcover. Yes, it's $75, but it's so worth it for what you get. If you haven't read the Infinity Story, or if you were one of those people that came late to the party and missed a bunch of the beginning, this is your chance to get everything you need in one book. Check it out, man. It's really, really awesome. I really recommend it highly, and I think John would agree with me.
Awesome.
One of the best Marvel crossovers in years, I would say. But that brings us to the end. As always, don't forget to subscribe. Leave us a comment. If you want us to review a specific trade or graphic novel that you're into, you'd like to hear us talk about it on the show, go ahead and post that in the comments below. Special thanks to John for coming out and sitting, and talking with us about all this cool stuff. So we will see you guys next week.